broadcasting live out of a basement in Appleton, Wisconsin. You're tuned into Fox Cities Core on WCZR Code Zero Radio. We're the show that gives you an opportunity to call in and be a part of the show. Our call-in line is 920-358-0795. Core. So Chris Opper is a founder and executive director of the Door County Film Fest. The festival began as a small gathering in 2009 and has grown into a highly regarded community-driven event, showcases a wide variety of films. Chris has been instrumental in promoting independent filmmakers and creating a platform for voices to be heard, and including one of the films this year, Green Blah. You might remember we had Jim Baker on and Chris Pretti a few weeks ago. Jim is joining us today as a special co-host. I'd like to welcome Chris Opper and Jim Baker back to Fox Cities Core. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Good. Good morning, Andy.
So this is pretty exciting. This is a film festival, and I have to imagine that it's next in a few weeks, right?
Less than a month, yeah.
So I'm guessing this is a critical time where you're ramping up and making sure all your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted.
Pretty much, yeah. Spend all my time in front of my computer, just like staring at it, going, "What am I missing? What am I missing?"
I've got to ask, what inspired you to start this festival?
Honestly, I was a filmmaker, or am. I actually loved Wildwood Film Festival that was here in Appleton. I lived in Green Bay at the time when they were going strong, and it was my favorite thing. I look forward to it every year. So when I moved to Door County, I kind of thought, okay, there's not going to be anything like that up here. I really hope somebody starts a festival. When you tell somebody that, like I was in a coffee shop where we started and said, I wish somebody would start a film festival. Otherwise, I'm going to do it. When you say that out loud, all of a sudden you're the director of the film festival.
It's amazing to me, and that's how a lot of things get started. It seems like it is people that are taking initiative to go out and actually start something. Mm-hmm. So how did you go about actually creating this festival?
So, like I said, we were in a coffee shop. We were actually showing the owner of the coffee shop was showing some movies, and he said he loved it so much. He's like, let's I want to do this again, and he knew I was a filmmaker, so he's like, we could show your movies. I'm like, wow, nobody wants to see my movies, but I do know other filmmakers, and I know some movies out there that would be worth showing. We did show some of mine and other people's films. Maybe 10 movies we gathered, and then did that for 2 years in a row. We did it in his coffee shop, and then expanded into a bigger festival.
So, what type of movies were you making at that point?
For me, it was just me goofing around with a camera. I was out of film school. When I was kind of into it, I was an editor. I never directed much. I never held a camera. And then when I moved, that was in Nashville, Tennessee. When I moved back to Wisconsin, I kind of had to take on things myself. So at that time, the only movies that I had that I could show because I had ownership to was just me popping up a camera and some funny little thing that came in my head, and goofy little films. That's what we showed that first year.
Well, you said you would attend the Wildwood Film Festival. Is there anything you adopted from that festival and put into the Door County Film Festival?
One of the things about them that was really fun was that they kept it Wisconsin only. That was the thing that they always said, their film had to be Wisconsin only. I never really wanted to stick to that kind of thing, but I do take preference to Wisconsin filmmakers. And just their format of it was an afternoon of you have like an hour and a half of watching movies, you get like a half an hour break, and then you're right back into it. I really enjoyed that, because then there's that half an hour where you get to like go up to the filmmaker and say, hey, I love the movie, I want to talk about it.
I'd imagine there's some people that are just film buffs that love to sit there for the full day of showings, and there's other people that come to support probably a film for somebody they know, and then they probably leave right after, which is a lot like playing a show, I guess. But
Yeah.
how do you get people to stay there for more than just the one film for the person they know?
That's the funny part. Okay, so quick story. Last year, we had we've always just sold one pass for the entire festival. We didn't do specific blocks that you would purchase. It was always just one pass. You can stay all day if you want. You can leave, whenever you want. And it kind of bit us last year, because as the day progressed, people kind of fell off. Like, not that it ever like it didn't get empty, but like when we showed the feature film, the one that I was like really excited about, it was half capacity. And we realized, okay, people got a little burnt out maybe, or, they got to that point of like, oh, I don't know if I can do a feature film after all those short films that I just sat through. So this year we're actually breaking it down into, you buy blocks or you can get that pass. And just got an email yesterday. We're selling more of the passes than we are the individual blocks.
Well, that's really good news.
So, yeah, people enjoy it, that they're going to stick around.
So has Door County been pretty helpful with the film festival?
Yes. Yeah. It depends on what you mean by helpful. People really respond a lot. I go grocery shopping, and somebody will come up and like, got movies, what movies you got this year? What, in July, somebody will say something to me.
Well, it's grown significantly since you started it. Does that make it easier for people, or more people stepping forward now that they know that this is a real legit thing and you're serious about this film festival?
Yeah. Yeah. For, I don't know, 10 years now, I haven't really had to search movies that much. Because I have return filmmakers coming. I'll hear about a film that I need to check out, which Green Blah was one of them, where I heard about it. I got to go see it. As soon as the movie was over, I went up I went up to Chris and said, can I show your movie, please? But for the most part, people are coming to us with their films.
Speaking of that, Chris, I got a quick question for
Sure,
you.
yeah.
Typically, how many submissions did you have, like maybe towards the, initial stages of you doing the festival, and then what kind of numbers do you get now? Is it quite a few? Like, can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So in the early days, that was kind of fun. Like I said, with that during the coffee shop days of like me going out and just finding films. We showed like 10 movies or, whatever, and whatever we could get our hands on, we showed. When we started expanding and getting bigger, it got harder. Like, I'm like, I really want to show more movies. I don't want it to just be, my film, or like, I was really, really digging. And then, John Pata, came to one of our festivals, and, I had met him before with another film that he was submitting, showing at a festival. So when he came to my festival, he was like, "You got to go to Film Freeway." So I signed up on Film Freeway, and I'm like, "Well, nobody's going to know who Door County is." So I made it like a free submission, and like in 2 days, I got like 20 films submitted to me, and I'm like, this is April. We're talking about a February film festival. If that continues, I'm in a lot of trouble. So I put a $5 mark on submitting films, and it slowed down to about 1 or 2 a week. So now we're up in like, I don't know, it's like $35 to submit or something like that. But that's how hungry people are to like get their movies out. Is like it's there. Last year we had 100 submissions and we showed 30. So, and then the 3 feature films. So we had to turn away a lot of filmmakers last year. This year it's a little evened out. Like we are showing 40. I think we had like 60 to 70 submitted.
And how many screeners? Yourself, and are there other people that screen them and you get together? Or
I do.
Can you explain that process?
Yeah, I do the initial screening. I'll just, because we open up submissions in April. I keep turning away from the microphone. Sorry. We open up our submissions April 1st, and then we go all the way through the year up until December 31st. And so I'll do the initial like watching them and deciding if it was, like, and Film Freeway is awesome. It's got like a flag system where you just kind of click on, like if I click a green flag, that means I really like it. It's going to be in. A yellow flag, I'm going to think about it. A red flag, it's not going to make it. And
no checkered flag.
No checkered flags. Yeah. But then I have people that I can send these movies to and go, okay, that's my thought. What do you think? Because I need other people.
If you're watching a ton of these in one sitting, the ones you're probably starting with, you're going to be more favorable to than the ones when you're 10 in, right?
Not really. No, they're like a good movie will grab you. Like you never get, and especially the way I do it, where I'm doing it all year round. I mean, I'd be watching movies anyway, so it's not a task for me to sit down and watch these movies, but I'm getting them submitted to me once a week or once every 2 weeks or whatever. So you just sit down, you watch the movie, and you'd be like, yeah, no, I really like that one, or then do your.
I thought what you said about the $5 submission really throttling the submissions just based on a $5 fee was a pretty interesting fact. That $5 would prevent people from, as many people from submitting. Do you think there's a lot of people that have good films that discredit themselves and are a little bit nervous to submit at all?
I think that happens all the time. I get a lot of people that are like, oh, I can't believe you accepted my film. Thank you so much. And I'm like, honestly, yours is one of my favorites. I think inherently we as filmmakers do discredit our own work, and film festivals are a way of validating and making yourself feel better about your film. Especially before you try to get out there and sell it to somebody, because that you're seeing an audience's reaction.
Well, let's go a little bit into Green Blah, the history of Green Bay punk in hardcore scene. We had Jim and Chris on a few weeks ago, and that film has been gaining a lot of traction. And how did that film? You said it was through John Pata that got on your radar. Are you seeking out films as well as people submitting to you?
Yeah, and that's that's the two parts of it. It's either I sit back and wait for films to come to me, or I see that there's something coming out. I did see an ad, probably Facebook or something, that Green Blah was there, but and I was like, yeah, I'll have to go check that out.
Did you go to one of the screenings of it?
Yeah, at the Tarleton. But then when I found out that John Pata was an editor, I thought he was the editor, but apparently there's more. Which Eric Carter was the other editor. I knew him at a different time too, so that was kind of fun to hear about that. But those are the kinds of things when you see connections. You're like, okay, well, I know John's work. I know that I'm gonna like what he does. Hopefully, the movie can sustain, and it's as good as I hope. And this one blew me away. It was better than I expected.
I'm kind of not that educated on film festivals, so if you could maybe explain to me exactly what I would be expecting at a film festival, not being exactly like a film festival expert. If I'm going to a film festival, am I going to like a contest for the best film, or am I just going to watch a bunch of films?
Both.
So who's doing the judging at the film festival?
Me and a crew of people do a jury award. And that I'm vague about that because every year it's different people. I do have certain people that I lean on a lot. They're the ones that I'll send a film to and go, hey, is this good? You know, it's just as good as I think. But then at the end of the year, I break it down to like, okay, these are like the top 5. Let's watch them. And then they'll pick what they think is, or we will all pick what we think would be the jury's award. And then at the festival, people are submitting what they think is their favorite movie.
So you'll get like a form to fill out while you're watching the films?
Yep. And every festival does it a little bit different. I'm working on a new one this year that I haven't finalized yet. But over the years, it's always been just tell us what your favorite movie was out of that block. And based on those votes, we'll give an audience award. There's a number system that I'm working on that makes it a little easier. That if you're in the third block, if you've only seen the third block, you didn't see the first and second block, how do you know that the best movie is in that block? Using the number system, we can gauge a little bit more of like what that particular film, how much it was liked by people.
So do you share these forums with the filmmakers afterwards if they've left a comment about the film?
That hasn't really happened. Sometimes, people will come up, and some filmmakers will come up to me and be like, how well did I do in the voting? And then, we're sitting there, we got a piece of paper and it's got like tally marks next to it, well, here's how you did, But the funny thing about it is, like, I don't really even like that part of it. Like, I don't think of, I don't really get into the Oscars that much. I don't get into award shows that much. For the festival, I don't really want it to be about, well, this movie was better than that movie. My personal view is that, like, if it's here, it's worth your time to watch. So who cares which one was better than the other one?
There had been some times where the judges were at odds over a movie. Maybe a judge's champion one movie and everybody else hates it. Has there been a situation like that?
My favorite story that goes with that is one of the early years. And I keep plugging this movie. It was in this podcast I was listening to this morning. The movie is called The Bridge, and it's 2 guys on a bridge in Ireland. That it's one of those 1-lane bridges, and they both come like head to head in their car, and they're trying to be too polite about it, like you go, and then they're like. Little bit happens here and there, and they both get stuck on the bridge, and then one guy dies, and then the other guy's like stuck. He can't go backwards and he can't go forward, and that's the whole movie. It's such a simple but funny movie about a guy dying, apparently.
And that's got to be a short film.
And that was a short film. Yeah, it was like maybe 7-8 minutes long. And everybody that voted for the jury award, and I think that one won jury award and audience award. And one of the guys that was on the jury was like, if I would have known that one was going to win, I would have fought harder against it. He didn't like the movie. he thought he could take it down.
So that's got to be few and far between where those kind of arguments happen.
Yeah, no, and we argue about that still to this day. That was 15 years ago. But most of the time, it's a clear cut, like and that I think that was really the only time that the Jurors Award and the Audience Award was the same. I think that's never happened before or since, like where like the jury thought the same thing as the audience. Usually, and the reason for that, I think, is that when you're there, you're really reacting to what's going on with the crowd around you. Sometimes something wins just because everybody laughed a lot during it, and then you think, well, okay, that was a funny one, but like,
so really the audience does play a part.
Oh yeah.
So it's important if the filmmaker's got a film in there to get everybody they know to come to the festival, just to at least draw the applause or the laughter up where it needs to be.
Yeah, and you bring a lot of people in with you. That's more votes you got for your film in the first place. But it really does let the excitement in the room will make a movie much better.
Well, and Jim, this question's for you. So Green Blah has had a lot of high-profile screenings so far. Do you think there's going to be a lot of repeat viewers that are going to the Door County Film Festival to support the film, or do you think you're going to have that film in front of mostly fresh eyes?
That's a really good question, Andy. I've thought that. So when Chris came to us and asked us if we wanted to be part of this, it's something Chris and I talked about. I hope there'll be, repeat customers or other people that would like, that have seen it before, maybe like to see it again and pick out some different things in the film that, when you see a film the first time, I've seen it 2,000 times. So for me to pick out stuff, even when I went to the premiere, this might be a little bit off track, but even for me, it's like, oh, really? And the one thing that I was amazed about, and Chris, you can chime in on this, but I was amazed that people thought it was funny. Like that, I didn't really picture it that there was going to be that there were funny parts. It was kind of funny, right? But I just thought, well, it's a documentary. It's telling the story. But I was really amazed and very happy to see that people thought there were like moments that were, funny or hilarious or what's that. And that really made me happy and kind of was a different shift for me to see that. But to go back to your question, I really hope there's some, but we're really looking forward to seeing, this will be the first time it's being shown outside of Green Bay. So albeit Door County's an hour away, hour and a half, where the film's being shown. It's going to be interesting to see what an audience that maybe didn't participate in that scene or outside observers, how they take the film and what their kind of report on it is. That's a great question.
But your and Chris's reaction getting into this festival, and has this film been in any festivals prior to this?
So Chris was the first person. It was still while we were doing the premieres that Chris talked to Chris and I, or you talked to Chris Pretti first, and then myself. So it's the first film that we're in, and then we've also been accepted in the Beloit Film Fest and submitted to some of the other ones that haven't, their deadlines haven't come up to let us know whether we're accepted or not. But no, we're very excited. It's our first film fest that we've ever done, being, rookie filmmakers, although we're 12 years into being rookies. It's kind of like a Jordan Love thing, I guess. Like you got to sit on the bench for a while and sit behind.
This is your moment.
Yeah. So no, we're excited to see what the reaction will be to people that might not have known about the punk rock scene in Green Bay and this area. And there's also, a band from Door County, Malignants. So we hope to have some of those people come out and their family members, and they were a big part of what happened in the early stages of like the hardcore scene in Green Bay.
I suppose too, those premieres will help you and Chris be a little more comfortable during the screening at the film festival, whereas a lot of these submissions are going to be people that are getting their films shown for the first time, which I'm sure will be a little bit harder on the nerves, but that's pretty exciting. I hope that people embrace the film. It does have funny parts in it if you know some of the characters like Tom Smith and Reverend Noor, but I think it's knowing how they operate, hearing some of the things they say and different things. It does have some humor and it's got some seriousness in it. I really like the film, and I'm really glad that Chris reached out to have you in the festival.
Yeah. And kind of on what you were talking about, like, I think one of the things that's like funny, quote unquote funny, is like, you just put yourself in the positions there and go, and that's where you find the funny. You know, like, I didn't know that the punk scene was going on. I grew up just 20 minutes out of Green Bay, and that was my era. I was like, I was a little younger. But like, had I known that was going on, I'd have been there. I'd have been one of those, you know, the kids in the bowling alley, like really excited about, like, you know, whoever this band is. People respond to the movie because it's about art. Mm-hmm. It's about, I need something and I'm gonna get out there and make this happen for myself because I need this. And that's why it's going to do well up in Door County, because it's a community of artists of all different, like, parts of art. Mm-hmm. Parts of art. That's
Parts of art.
Parts of art. But like every avenue, it's covered up in Door County. We, you know, filmmakers, painters, poets, like, people are going to respond to it because of that, and that's what I got out of the movie.
Yeah, it's definitely a good document too to have to, you know, to show future generations what happened in Green Bay. I think you guys did a fabulous job on that film.
Thank you.
Are you guys going to be selling merch at the film festival? Can people sell merch?
Yes.
For their films?
Yes. For the most part, people don't. We've had people that have like put out a table, so you're welcome to do so.
We didn't even ask Chris that yet, so thank you, Andy, for asking him that.
So if people want to go see the film there and they didn't grab a poster yet or a T-shirt, they can do that at the film festival.
Yeah, I showed up to the meeting with my board to pitch them that we're going to show this green. I had the green blah T-shirt on. and one of the guys on the board was like, "So you like the movie, huh?" Because he knew I went there the weekend before.
So what are some of the difficult parts about doing a film festival?
Putting yourself out there. I'm kind of a sheltered guy. Like, it's so weird to even say that a guy would, that I put myself up on a stage in front of people and just say, you know, here's the movies I collected over the year, and, you know, whatever. The fact that I'm sitting here and interviewing somebody or talking to somebody, it's out of my comfort zone. I'd really rather just be sitting in front of my computer editing somebody else's movie and then getting it out, you know, like them getting it out there, and me not having any of the attention. I don't want this festival to be about me at all. So that's really the hardest part for me. The rest of it is just a lot of fun. Gathering movies, talking about movies, hanging out in a space where people can just like talk about movies. That's my favorite part.
Are there music video submissions in the film festival as well?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you have to be from the Door County.
Nope.
You said you couldn't be from even outside of Wisconsin.
Yeah, we're actually an international. We have a movie from the Netherlands, some from Spain, one from Canada.
Did you get any local Wisconsin music
Yes.
video submissions?
Did we have music videos this year? I don't think we have any music videos. That's the first time. Usually we have music videos in every year. I'm looking at my my notes in front of me. I don't think there are any videos this year, but they're always welcome. Yeah, that's a movie as well.
Well, I guess like you were saying, word of mouth. People every year find out more and more, and that's how it gets bigger and bigger. Is you get word of mouth, people talking, meeting people, and then kind of spreading the word of the festival. I think music videos are. It seems like they're more of a thing now. And as far as like short films, the technology, I don't know what you use to edit. Do you care to share what program you use?
I use Adobe Premiere.
Okay, so is Premiere what you see as the most used?
I think so. When I got out of film school, I was all about Final Cut Pro. I didn't like their new format when they went to 10, and that's when I went Premiere. But like, I think even back in film school, that we're talking 90, 98, 99, I think more Adobe Premiere was one that you could afford and get on your PC at home. And back then it was tough. It was tough to find something that your computer could handle. And the people that I knew that were doing their own stuff at home were using Premiere. I did Final Cut Pro, so I spent a little bit more money. Over the years, they've kind of evened out a little bit. And to tell you the truth, I don't know what people do nowadays.
Did you get any submissions from somebody that filmed it all on an iPhone or something like that?
I don't think so.
Because you really could, right?
You can. What is it? 20 weeks later, or wherever they're at now, the zombie movie was completely shot on an iPhone. Maybe with help.
You mentioned John Pata. Of course, Pata's thing used to be zombie movies. Do you get a zombie movie every year?
Just about.
It seems to be like a popular genre.
It is very popular. That and dystopian end of the world type stuff. What am I trying to say? The
Apocalypse.
apocalypse. I can't say the word. That's why
It's one of those words that it takes a bit to kind of make your mouth form the words. We did get a question here. The question is, are the film formats all digital, or do some filmmakers use vintage formats like 8mm?
We get some that are shot in film 8mm, some older, like not this year. I think this year it's probably all digital that I can remember. If I'm wrong about that, I apologize to whoever did that. But
Do they have to specify on their
no
entry?
No, we take all formats, anything you got going on. We want to see it, and we want to, if I feel that it's going to resonate with somebody or be entertaining, we'll show it.
Have you had anybody use the place? I don't know if Andy, you're way too young for this. Chris, I don't know if you'll remember this, but do you remember Play School had a camera that you could purchase, and it was probably less than $100, and this probably goes back to like, I don't know, like the 70s or early 80s maybe. And it was all black and white, I think. And
I bought one for my niece. When I was just starting to like really get into and knowing that this was my path. I was like, and she was like, 7. So I was like, I'm gonna bring her along with me because she's gonna be the artist in the family.
Are you familiar with that?
But it's a cool camera.
I've never heard of it. But I had a lot of siblings too, so maybe we just couldn't afford one.
I've always actually wanted to do a film that like handles all formats.
Wow, interesting.
Like that. Start with on the little Fisher Price thing, and black and white. It probably didn't even have audio at the time, probably.
So it was called Fisher Price Play School, right?
Yeah.
It was part of the Play School.
Yeah,
kids' toy line.
That sounds kind of dangerous, really.
Yeah, having kids running around with the camera when the parents are gone. Yeah,
but like if you could mix in VHS and high 8, and then film and digital and like everything. I think that would be somebody get out there and make that movie.
So when did
I will.
When did you make your first movie? What age?
Late. I didn't really know that this was something I could do until I was about 23 3 years old.
So you were out of film school when you made your first film?
No, I actually went to the UW Center here in Menasha, in the Fox Valley, and we did some projects there. I think I could consider one of like them to be like my first, like projects. And then after that, I went to film school. That was in '97. So those are the ones that I can say would be my first, like where I went out and made movies.
Do you still have those films?
I have every movie. I have every movie that's ever been submitted to the festival. I have every movie I ever worked on.
Chris, I'm just spitballing here, but what about a festival category with people submit old movies they made, like, and they had to be over like 15 years ago? That might be kind of interesting.
I think people do those. Yeah, I would love that. Yeah, like your first works, because there you really gotta sit, buckle up to watch these. I was
Thanks, Chris.
Now this is your first movie.
But
You knocked it out of the park.
You know what's funny, Andy and Chris? I just thought about this. So yes, so this is Chris's first movie. It's my first film. But I owned a skateboard business for many years, and at that time we did a film every year that kind of showcased the skateboarders that were in there. But I didn't do any editing. I didn't do any filming. I was just kind of part of the background of it. And Brian Lottie and some other people involved in that. But yeah, this is our first film, so
you would have
thanks,
been a
Chris.
producer of those films, and I gotta put the shout out. Producers are how movies get made. My best friend's the producer of like films that I did in film school, and without him, none of the stuff we would have been able to do without him putting it out there. Because most of us filmmakers are like, yeah, this is a great idea, and then never do it. The producer is the guy that says, okay, well, you want to do that, I'm going to make that happen and get out there and do it.
Well,
So you were a part of those movies, the skating.
you mentioned that Door County was supportive. If they've been supportive as far as promoting it or financially, like how expensive is it to put on a festival like this?
Yeah, there's a lot of expenses, especially if you want to get the word out. Like just spending money to get ads out and get in print and whatever. But we count on a lot of sponsors that jump in every year. We have people that have been with us since the beginning. And then every year there's always somebody else that that jumps on and will sponsor.
Is the group of people that work internally the festival pretty much the same year after year?
Yeah. So when we moved out of the coffee shop, and I haven't even mentioned Joel Kurzabet. Sorry, I butchered your name.
That's
Joel.
a name I would never be able to say.
He was the owner of the coffee shop, and so he and I were the ones that went, said we're going to continue this, but we can't do it in the coffee shop anymore. It was small enough that when we had 20 people in there, 30 people in there, it was really packed. So he suggested that we moved out, and what we did was we went to the Sister Bay Advancement Association and asked for their help, and they've been with us from then on. They're still they're the core of putting this together every year. So Sister Bay Advancement Association, and then a couple of years later, then Door County North, which these are the coordinators that put together all the festivals and all the fun things to do in Door County. And then Door Guide Publishing, John Nelson jumped on. In fact, he was there right away when we started talking with the Advancement Association. And that's been the core. since 2012.
And what was the venue this year?
So back in those days, we like when we were in Sister Bay, we were in the village hall, basically big open room, put out the chairs, put up a screen. 3 years ago now, this is going to be our third year. We are with Northern Skies Gould Theater. We went to them, and they Northern Sky has a theater program that they do out in the park in Peninsula Park, and just that year, like they had built this building to do indoor productions. So we came to them, and I think at that time they were probably nearing a year of that building being there, and we said, "Would you ever want to show movies here?" And they kind of perked up. They were like, "Yeah, as long as it doesn't conflict with what we got going on." I said, "Well, we do ours in February." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, we can talk about that." And it's been a wonderful marriage.
What kind of theater is it? Like a traditional movie theater kind of?
It's a traditional stage theater that now they like we went in and put up a screen and used our projector, and after that first year they went out and got a screen, got a projector. They've got the sound system set up for their stage.
So they really got behind it.
Yeah, they got pretty excited about it, and yeah, they've kind of ran with it, and quite frankly, made it really easy on us. There's so little of setup because they take care of all of it. It's been amazing.
Do you have a favorite memory from all the years? One specific memory that ranks at the top for the film festival?
Every year's got its own story.
But
okay, so there's a bit of pride that I have in this one. There was one year that it was so cold and we had whiteout conditions. You drove through Ephraim. I live in Fish Creek, and Sister Bay is north. You drive through Ephraim and you're going along the water. The snow and that was just blowing across the road. You couldn't see the road. You couldn't see anything. And I'm driving on my way to the village hall and going, we're not having a festival this year. This is not going to happen. And I got there, and one of the other guys was there, and John Nelson. He's like, let's just set up as if. And we did, and we still packed the house.
That's pretty awesome.
People love to watch movies, and they will fight the weather to go out and watch movies.
Well, it's another thing. The weather, right? Because you never know what the weather is going to be like.
In February, we are taking a chance that this is not going to happen.
We're going to call here, and it could be Chris. Let's see what we have. You are on the line.
Oh, hey, this is Chris. How's it going?
Hey, it's Chris Pretti. Jim, it's like a reunion for you guys.
Yeah.
Never mind. I didn't get a call from Baker before, so I thought I'd call in. I didn't know I had your number yet.
I'm Baker, by the way.
Well, it's good to talk to you. We talked about Green Blah, and Baker talked about his thoughts about being in the film festival and how it all kind of came to be. Mr. Pretti, what are your thoughts going into this being your first film festival? I
don't know. Pretty excited. I mean, it's I think excited because you're probably reaching a different audience than we would have in Green Bay, and with a lot of people that were in the film are connected to the scene, so it's reaching a different audience, which I think is something to look forward to.
Yeah, and this will be a little different than the premieres you guys have done, because it'll be kind of featured. Is it going to be at the end of the day, or is it going to be midday?
Actually, this is Friday night, and it's mostly a standalone.
Okay, so it's going to be another premiere type.
Yeah, it's kind of that like if you're there that day, you're there to watch this movie. because it's the Friday night feature.
Well, this film clocks in at, like, I think an hour and a half. Is that accurate?
That's two.
Almost two.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is this the longest film that's in the film festival?
Yes. And that it's kind of why it's its own night, because of it being a 2 hour. We mentioned earlier about how the audience kind of petered out at the end. So we wanted this one to really have its own space. And I think that'll help. We do have kind of a thing set up right before it. We're showing a movie actually that I did called "Are We Listening?" But it kind of ties into this kind of feel. It was an artist who did a thing. She made these ceramic birds and brought all of us artists together to talk about: Are we listening? Are we being listened to? Are people paying attention? So it's a 10-minute movie, it's to kind of set the mood. We've got some things to talk about that surround that little film and her movement, and then that's going to lead us into Green Blah. So we feel that that's going to be a really fun night. Sorry,
And it's on Valentine's Day.
and it's on
nice.
Valentine's Day. Yeah. It's the most romantic thing you can think of to do.
Why wouldn't you combo Valentine's, your sweetheart, and punk rock and independent music? That's a good combo.
Yeah, and there's more. Because I mean, it kind of going back to the "Are we listening?" That one thought, just that one sentence or that one question, has inspired so much out of this last year that's why we're going to be doing this. But so we got that thing. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about everything that's brought in. We're going to talk about Green Blah. We're going to show Green Blah. And then after that, we're going to go up to Husby's in Sister Bay and watch some punk music, because this band, Ballistic Biscuit, who are loosely tied to a lot of the artists in the movie. I think you said you didn't really know.
No, I'm not familiar with that band. Chris, do you know Ballistic? No, I can't
Say the word. Say it.
Ballistic Biscuit. Ladies and gentlemen, Ballistic Biscuit.
Chris Pretti?
Chris, did you know them? Oh, we lost him.
He's still on there, but
I'm kidding.
yeah, he was in his car, it sounded like, so maybe, hopefully, he's okay.
Chris, if you, Andy, if you don't mind, Chris, I have another question, and maybe you've answered part of this already, or maybe somehow I missed it. But the format. So people send this, they submit these films. You said there's a long submission time and process going through these, and you have a group of people that watch these. Is it typical? I know it's in the history of it's been a lot of shorts, correct?
Yes.
But is there a lot of documentaries that come through as well as, and does that just vary on, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is if there's a submission of X number of documentaries and X number of short films that are not documentaries, do you try to take some of each, or does it really is there a balance to that, or is it really based on the content of the film and your belief in it?
Yes. No, we are, in fact, one of the guys that I haven't mentioned yet, a new guy that's been helping us out this year is Kurt Krause. And he's a filmmaker himself. He jumped on board this year. He looked at what I had brought out and said, this is what I think. What do you think? And he's looking at the films and goes, we're kind of documentary heavy this year. And I didn't realize that. So I honestly don't think about that much, because each film has its own merit, and you just kind of watch it and go, I liked it. I think people will like it. But at the same time, you do try to balance it out a little bit more where, like, yeah, we got to get some more narrative films. Especially when you're talking about, like, for the short films, the blocks of the sessions. You don't want to have, like, it all being documentaries.
Sure.
You gotta kind of sprinkle it in there. Documentaries are really becoming a very a very popular thing to do. I myself am leaning, when I do a film, I'm doing more of a documentary than a narrative.
Do you think there's any specific reasoning for that, or that's becoming so popular?
For me, it's really hard to, I like, just personally, to like gather people and like, we got to get 17 people on next Friday afternoon to do this thing and all that stuff. When you're doing a documentary, it's dictating what you're going to be doing that day. Like, this thing has got to get documented. I'm going to be there and do that. So for a guy like me, that it's hard to reach out to other people and say, hey, you want to help out, or to get a cast and crew together. It's really difficult. And a documentary, it's a little, I hate using the word easy, but it is a little bit more easier to just go, well, this is happening, so this has to get done.
Jim, it sounds like Chris is saying documentaries are easy, so I'm wondering why Green Blot took 10 years plus to make.
Well, we kind of covered that last time, Andy.
Documentaries are not easy. But no,
of course I'm joking.
Yeah. But the getting people together. Yeah, I'm not going to repeat myself. Sorry.
I would say like the getting the interview part. I mean, we did really well at that. So almost too well at points, because we interviewed like 90 people. But trying to distill that and hoping you captured everything, and trying to, when you have 90 people and trying to thread that together to make the complete story, that's the challenge. And then just editing, and the technical side of things. That's, I think, for us, Jim and I never had any background in this, so we don't have the knowledge. We have to rely on others. And thankfully we had, great editors who were able to do that for us. But it's, I think, that communication, when we're not too familiar with the ins and outs of, how this has to happen, and, you're kind of learning as you go. So, that hopefully explains why it was 10 years.
Well, and we're not doing it full time, right? It became full time. There's a lot of days we're putting 8, 10, 12 hours in a day, a lot of days. And we wanted to make it very thorough without having it be clumsy. Like, okay, we have all this footage and all this stuff. We still got to make a story that makes sense and is, that translates to what really went on. So that was a part of it. And then we had some personal, just like anything, some real tragic stuff happened in our lives that kind of shelved it for a short time. But it was a big project, and our first. So our second time around, Andy, it won't be 12 it won't be 12 years. Really, I think we can, the next thing Chris and I do together, we have some ideas and stuff in the works a little bit, and that stuff will be streamlined because now we know a lot more than we knew before too. So
can I ask, like, comparison to like putting a movie together or mixing an album? Are there a lot of similarities to that, like putting an album together?
You mean when you go into a recording studio?
The whole process.
I would say
songs.
I would say really similar.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more elements when you make a film, a documentary. It's kind of like having 6 mixing boards or something, and a lot of different things. But I would say, the time that I've spent in a recording studio, and Chris, I don't know if you could add to this or, your thoughts on it, but time in a studio is very, very similar. But I think because you're limited, not limited, but you only have a certain amount of actors that are at a studio, but then going and putting extra, special effects on it and overdubbing stuff and doing all that may be similar, but I think it's a lot more complicated to me. Chris, what are your thoughts on that? You've been in the studio with bands.
I would say that being in a studio with a band is exactly how Norb described it when they recorded the SUM album. You're in the studio and you're like, oh man, this sounds amazing. Like, it's the best record ever made. And then you listen to it when you're at home and it's like, wow, this is not great at all. Pretty much sucks. Because it's really hard to capture the sound that you have in your head in a recording thing, and it's just really difficult because you might not be playing through same equipment or what have you. I mean, guitars maybe not amps or whatever. I mean, it all depends. I think we've done it a couple different ways, but I guess that's my similarity. It's really hard to capture in your head what you want to put on film or put on a record.
Yeah.
But it's, you're relying on other people with, knowledge. The engineer in the studio is, turning all the different knobs and stuff and adding different effects here and there. And I think you come out sometimes with mixed thoughts on it. I mean, I don't think like any of the stuff I have ever recorded has been bad. It's just that, may not live up to like the expectations that you sort of think you'd like it to sound like. That's true for, I think, most bands.
I got one more thing to throw into that, and this really makes me happy about being a filmmaker now, if I can say that, or documentarian. So I think one thing that's really important to me, and essentially it's art, right? So when you go in, it's like here's this ball of clay. You can make it a million ways, and how it comes out is not really like how it goes in the blender. You know what I mean? It's going to taste different. It's going to be different. And that is a little bit of the experimentation, but that's kind of what like independent or do-it-yourself movements are all about. It's like you get somewhere, you get together with these guys and you make something and you adjust it on the fly and change things. And the one thing that really kind of tripped us up for a long time, and it might seem really simple, is the lower thirds. Like what graphic we're going to use and what font we're going to use, because I'm really picky about that. And I don't think, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but he is not as, he really knows what he wants to, but we had a whole format. And when John Pata came back and reflected on it, he's like, nope. He's like, Baker, that looks like a newscast. And it was like, no way. Like I saw this, there was this PBS special called Polka, Polka, Polka. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not.
And I really liked how the lower thirds came up. I mean, I just loved it. I'm like, oh, that's what we need. I want to do something similar to that. Chris kind of reluctantly agreed. And at the end, John's like, nah, Baker, that looks like, it kind of looks like a news feed that you're watching Fox or
Polka,
CBN
Polka.
Or something, or Polka, Polka, Polka. And then we switched it up. I just didn't want the whole film to be punk rock. And that's really weird to say, but I guess what I'm saying is I don't want the typical like ransom letters and that's been done so many times and overused. And punk rock's about doing your own thing, and you make a film, do it how you want to do it. I mean, that's the whole thing about it. And so that's the fun thing about it, even though it's lengthy and the process is crazy, but you have a ball of clay, but then guess what? When you go to the bathroom or take a break, then Chris is in there messing with the clay, and the editors are messing with the clay, and then it's kind of what happens, and it's just a fun process. It's one of the most exciting things to me is like, it started as something that became something different, maybe not exactly what I thought, but better, I think.
Yeah, like one thing about the like graphics and the lower thirds is a good example is, I think both of us really watched through, Jim mentioned Polka, 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 but like I had gone through so many different punk documentaries and looked at, how they did things and, trying to borrow from too, right? So, or looking just how they lined up the interview. And, but you're right, because you don't want to just be the generic, like, okay, here's the Ransom Note Sex Pistols type, graphic for the names. And I've seen, I thought, some good ones, but then also ones where you're just like, wow, I don't even know what they were thinking there. It's just not good at all. And that's even with like, I know like the Iggy and the Stooges documentary that Jim Jarmusch did. It's like, I didn't really care for a lot of the graphics, and he's a big time director. And I thought maybe we did a little bit better. I don't know.
But everybody's got their own taste. That's why, like even the genre of punk rock, there's tons of different types of music, and I don't like every band. Chris doesn't like, I'm sure you guys don't like every band in the genre you listen to. And it equates differently for each person. So we're just grateful people. We're very responsive to the film and very, very kind to us, and how they viewed it and they enjoyed it. And even though it was a long process, I think people kind of understood maybe towards the end more that really to make a good film, it takes a long time and a lot of effort.
Yeah.
Made me wish that I
And craziness.
continued playing guitar.
But
Got
kinda-
past the G chord.
Okay.
My mom's laughing right now with that joke.
I've got a question for Chris Opper. So, does the Door County Film Festival offer any opportunities for upcoming filmmakers besides getting the film in the film festival? Do you guys do any pointing of like directions or any kind of I don't know how like fostering of filmmakers that are upcoming?
No, you're on your own. No, that's honestly something we talk about every year about, even like, maybe even doing like scholarships to help out an up and coming, or mentorships, or like, that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, we're all people that have like day jobs, and like it's hard to continue on. And quite frankly, when February 17th happens, I walk away, and then when I come back, it's like, okay, I'm looking towards next film festival. But that's not to say that we would never do that, or that we, it's just, it hasn't happened yet.
Well, the fact that it's growing every year,
Yeah.
like you said. So there's films to be had. There's also going to be questions and answers on certain films. Is that accurate?
Could you tell us like exactly what's gonna like what the what the format or itinerary, or like
I thought you were about to swear. What the? Yeah. Okay. So on your night, you're the only filmmakers. So we're gonna bring you up after the screening and ask you a couple of questions, and then the audience will get a chance to tell you their responses, or like ask you questions about the. We do that when it comes to the film, the other sessions, like when it's the short sessions, like we do like the entire session, and then we bring up like everybody, and then like one by one kind of introduce them, and then people can ask questions. That's kind of a typical, like any festival, that's what you're going to see. That's how we do it. You also have, on Friday, we're actually going to have a mixer from 4 to 6 leading into going in to watch the movies. So there's another chance to like just face-to-face talk with people. Yeah. Did I answer that?
yeah.
Okay.
So Andy, I'm sure you're going to ask this if you haven't already, but what are the dates of this film, and what are the times for this film, and is there food available? Are there restaurants there? Could you tell us a little bit about that? Are there snacks or d'oeuvres? Are there what's available? Could you give us kind of the meat and potatoes of like what the day would consist of? It's obviously the films. What time does it start? What time do these end? And the days that it runs for that weekend? And then what kind of delicious stuff is available?
Speaking of meat and potatoes, there are no meat and potatoes. So Thursday night gets started at 6 o'clock. We're going to do some short films. A couple of we got a 47-minute movie and a 40-minute movie in those sessions. So we're in the middle of an argument of like, are those feature films or are those short films? I call them short films, but anyway, off topic. So Thursday night starts at 6. Friday night starts at 6. And then, like we said, Friday night is all about Green Blah and Are We Listening? Saturday starts at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Doors open at noon. And then there's usually about a half an hour break in between each of those sessions. And we also have a feature film on Saturday night. And it's called Closure. And then, so that's in a nutshell.
And that's what it should be entitled when you're ending a film festival. Is
Closing
the
the
closure.
festival with closure.
Yeah.
At the Gould, they do have a small kitchen. The first year, all they did was put out cheese and crackers and like a couple of like nibbly things. They also have wine and cider and other like drinks. I believe they serve beer as well.
And that's local. Is the cider all local?
All
Awesome.
local stuff. Yeah.
Really cool.
That first year, one of the feedbacks was there isn't anything close to that theater, by the way. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. You're 2 miles away from Fish Creek, and like 7 miles away from Sister Bay, and Bailey's Harbor as well. So you have to get in your car and go to a restaurant. Like you can't just walk to anything. So they are adding. They last year, mid festival, one of the Gould workers or the Northern Sky workers went, I'm going to go get some sandwiches. So she went to one of the local delis, got some sandwiches, and brought them in. So they're going to have sandwiches as well this year.
No food trucks or anything like that?
No, we talk about that, but you have to go out into the cold to go get your food, and that sounds pretty rough.
Yeah.
So we do warn people that if you need more than just a sandwich or some snacky things, you should probably get some food on your way to
Pack a lunch.
Pack a lunch, or look at there's no shame in deciding not to.
Are there any delicious restaurants that have stepped up to the plate that are part of this or anything that are like, hey, come at, film festivals going on? Like, is there any Door County, like Crate and Sturgeon Bay, or like that's one of my favorites? Is there? I know it's not very close, but are there any up there in that area that are part of this? Or
wow, on the spot there. I should have like the list of our sponsors right in front of me, but I don't. The closest restaurant to us is I'm terrible with this. I tell people this all the time. Like I'll space on my best friend's name if I get a microphone.
That's okay. It's totally okay.
But there are restaurants in Fish Creek and that are open in Sister Bay, in Ephraim and Bailey's Harbor, the surrounding towns.
We'll find them.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
We'll find them.
I'm sorry, guys.
Well, there is a website people can go to if they want to find out more information about the festival before it gets here. It is northernskytheater.com. It's also where people can buy tickets for the event. And again, it's February 13th to 15th. It sold out last year, 16th. Right? And the 16th.
No, 13th, 14th, and 15th.
Yeah, 13th through the 15th.
Yes.
Sold out last year, right? So people should get tickets in advance.
Yeah, you should get your tickets in advance. This will sell out. It has. And we also have our own website, which is doorcountyfilmfest.com.